Okay, so now, ladies and gentlemen, let me share with you some of the accomplishments of this year's honoree, Julie Henning. Julie was born in South Korea to a Korean mother and an American soldier during the Korean War. She was brought to America at age 13 and after the death of her mother to live with Pearl S. Buck. Julie always knew that education was the key to success and worked for 25 years as a middle school math teacher in the Saturn area school district. I remember very much her bringing her classes here and running around with the kids. You often couldn't find Julie amongst the children. Today, Julie has a family of her own, and together with her husband, Doug, she raised 2 sons who are now married to wonderful wives and have given her 5 energetic grandsons who are all here today to celebrate her. Julie loves to share her story of hope and grace with churches and civic organizations, speaking at more than 350 of them, and she also shares her inspirational story with schools. She continues to advocate for Amerasians through newspaper articles, radio interviews, national television, and U.S. congressional hearings. Trying to get on Julie's schedule for a speaking engagement is not an easy thing. We talked to her several times, and she'd whip out her calendar, and you'd be like, yeah, there's no place for me. So in 2001, Julie traveled back to South Korea to present the Pearl S. Buck, then the Woman of Year Award, to Madam Lee Hee-ho, the wife of South Korea's president. She also was present at the 2006 ceremony honoring First Lady Laura Bush as the Woman of the Year. In 2019, Julie followed Pearl Buck in her footsteps as an author with her publication of A Rose in a Ditch, which she's given you all as a gift tonight. Julie may be more so than anyone else I know. She epitomizes the work and the mission of Pearl S. Buck International and what it's all about. She was born into poverty, experienced the generosity of a stranger, Pearl Buck herself, who lifted her up and gave her hope. Julie used education as a means to build a successful life and a beautiful family, and now uses her place in her church and her community to teach others, including many young people, the importance of standing up for those in need, of giving back and giving hope. We're happy to be able to honor her tonight, so please let me welcome with you my friend, Julie Henning.
Wow. And that's a wow, too. Can you help me think? How am I?
Oh, great. You look wonderful.
So can we put that down? Okay. So I can see the people. Is this good? Okay. Oh, my heart is pounding. 안녕하세요. Now, that was a greeting in Korean. I am so grateful that you made this evening part of your night. And my sincere thanks for those who are here in person and also to those who are joining us virtually. I first set my foot on this ground, home of Pearl S. Buck, this lovely place I once called my home, 2 weeks after my 14th birthday. I was in wonder to see the long driveway, the beautiful trees, the great wooden beams across the living room ceiling, and to have my own bedroom and bathroom, and to have my own balcony and fireplace. I was Cinderella. For over 50 years, I've been uniquely tied to this home and the mission of Pearl S. Buck International in a most amazing ways. But I stand before you tonight with the same jaw-dropping awe I had that Thursday night back in 1968. I am honored and humbled to receive Per Esbach Woman of Influence Award. But my awe is my gratitude for the marvelous grace of God in my life. Thank you so very much for sharing with my family and me. And this room is filled with so many people who have had great influence in my life. And I'm here because people have helped me every step of the way. And I thank you, and I just, beyond my words, I am so grateful. I would also like to thank Anna Katz, our new CEO, the board members, and the entire Per Esbach International family for this honor. And special thanks goes to Jill Reeder and also to Janet Mincer, our former CEO and friend. My prayer has been to use this opportunity to further advocate to meet the needs of children throughout many different countries. As some of the things were shared with you, my birth mother escaped North Korea, and she was married to a South Korean man. But during the Korean War, he was killed. And soon after that, my half-sister died of malnutrition at the age of 2. My mother, not being able to support herself, she resorted to working at a coffee house, and there she met my father, who was an American GI. My mother and my father were never married. After my father went back to the United States, my mom and we lived in a small one-room house with no running water, no electricity, public outhouse, an outside kitchen that was only covered by the edge of the roof of a house. So when it would rain, my mom would get wet as she prepared our food. Often it was difficult to come up with enough money to buy rice. We looked for free food where we could find, such as dandelions, mushrooms, snails, grasshoppers. Ladies and gentlemen, I am master at catching grasshoppers. You should try them sometime. They taste like roasted nuts. Maybe perhaps like cashews. It was difficult enough that we were very poor, but people of the community, especially children, didn't make our lives any easier. I was often teased, ridiculed, and called many different names, such as Yankee Devil Go Home. You have to understand how proud Koreans are of their pure race and of their orderly nation. Consequently, mixed-race person like myself was despised and not wanted by my motherland. It was also difficult for my mom as well. The places that I was with her, I was a sign that she was with the foreigner. I was like a scarlet letter A that she was wearing on her chest. My mother loved me dearly, and she always wanted me to study hard in school and go to America someday. I remember many days I would come home from school crying because of all the teasing and ridicule. I would sit on my mom's lap. We would hug each other, and we will cry together. It felt though as my mom and I against the world. Then you might be wondering, Julie, how do you feel toward Korean people now? They're my people. They're my mother's people. I have no ill feelings, but they're of only understanding. I feel that often unknown produces fear, and often fear produces prejudice. When it was time for me to enter grade school, I had a legal problem. I did not have a citizenship. I did not have a last name, and I did not even have a birth certificate. You might be wondering, how can that possibly be? According to Korean law at that time, you are a citizen of your father's country. That meant I should be an American. But according to American law, you are a citizen of the country you are born. That meant I should be Korean. Neither country wanted me. I used to think perhaps I belonged somewhere in the middle of a Pacific Ocean. Kindly, an orphanage father of our town allowed me to assume his last name, and I was able to enter grade school. I did well in school, but we had no financial means for me to ever continue my education. And my mom was so very concerned what would become of me. You see, no Korean man in right mind will marry a mixed-race person like myself, and without an education, my future looked bleak. One day, a social worker came to our town. And the reason this social worker came to our town is because of a lady named by Pearl S. Buck. As many of you know so much about her, she's the woman who wrote a book called The Good Earth, and through many other literary works. And she was the first American woman to receive a Nobel Prize and Pulitzer Prize. And when she was growing up in China as a daughter of American missionaries that were stationed in China, she also experienced discrimination. And then, and you are so with me, I'm folding a story a bit. One day, Pearl Buck was visiting South Korea. And while she was walking on the street, she told me that she felt a tug by a blue-eyed, Korean-speaking boy in ragged clothes begging for $1. She told me she felt such a compassion for this child, and she inquired why such children. And she learned the plight of mixed-race children in Asian countries. So when she returned to America, she used her writing. She used her influence. She used her money. And she established Pearl S. Buck Foundation. Now it is called Pearl S. Buck International in 6 different Asian countries. And that was the reason why this social worker came to our town. And she said she didn't have any problem finding where I lived. As soon as she described a little bit, people were able to pinpoint, oh, that's where Suni lives. That's my Korean name, means sweet. So ladies and gentlemen, I left my mom, the only person in this whole wide world who ever loved me. I left my mom and I went to live in Pearl S. Buck Opportunity Center. And my mom was so thankful that I was receiving an education. One day, while I was in school, It was second block. It was math class. The bell has just rung. And then we were all quickly seated at our location. And the principal wanted to see me. I didn't think I did anything wrong, but when principal wants to see you, your heart sink a bit. So I carefully walked toward him. And he handed me a telegram. And this telegram said, "My mother has passed away." I kept telling myself that this is a dream. When I wake up, everything will be just fine. But it was not a dream. I felt as I couldn't even cry. I felt as I couldn't even breathe. I felt so choked up. I remember running from school to my social worker's house. My social worker wasn't there, but her mother was there. And she gave me some money. And I was able to take a bus and went to hometown and reported myself to the police station. And the police took me to where my mother's body laid. And I was able to identify she was my mom. And the man police provided and myself, we both dug the ground and buried my mom. There was no one else at the gravesite. You see, we want an outcast. So who will come to such one's gravesite? At the age of 13, I was truly alone. There was not even a distant relative I could call mine. My mother's side in North Korea, whom I do not know. My father's side in America, whom I do not know. I cry myself to sleep many nights, and I remember praying. I thought there have to be God somewhere. I prayed that God will protect me and provide me with a family someday. I purposed in my heart to study very hard. I studied while others played, and I studied while others slept. In this big dormitory, it was about the size of this room, and we had low beds lined up, and the lights went out at 10 o'clock. I would study up to that point, and then I would gather up my books and notebooks and tiptoe into the bathroom, turn the lights on, sit on the bathroom floor, and I would study. And when I wanted to fall asleep, I slapped my face, I pinched my legs so that I would be more focused. My effort did not go in vain. I was ranked first out of more than 600 students. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not very smart. I was just scared. I was lonely. I was hungry. I thought perhaps in education that I might have future. And this was noticed by Pearl Buck. And when she came to Korea, she met with me, and she asked me through an interpreter, how would you like to come to America to live with me as my daughter? It was like a Cinderella story. All of a sudden, I had a new name. My name became Julie Comfort Walsh. Comfort was mother's middle name. Her maiden name was Pearl Comfort Seidenstricker. What do you think of that last name? Seidenstricker. And Walsh was her second marriage name. So when I was living at this house, at that time we had about 500 acres of land. We had a big tennis court, basketball barn, big field to play softball, big farmland. We had 2 gardeners, secretary, cook, chauffeur, and a housekeeper. Would you believe I didn't even have to clean my room? I really wish that was the case now. And then I used to go to exquisite stores in Doorstown, and I would purchase the items that I needed and sign my name, Julie Walsh, and mother paid it all. And I think my husband wishes that was the case. And I used to get picked up in a limo to go to my English tutor's house. But I always preferred going in that big yellow bus. I wish I had a more noble motives, but I just liked the cute boys that were in the bus. And I remember also going to symphony orchestra a lot because mother loved music. And she had a reserved balcony, and she would hold on to my arm, and we would walk up to the second floor. And so many people used to just stand up and wave at her and give her a thumbs up and clap for her. I am only 5'1". I felt like I was 6'5" because I was so proud of her. I could tell you so much about what it was like to live in this house, but I must tell you one more. We had a walk-in freezer. Inside of this walk-in freezer, there were many different flavors of ice cream. And when I first tasted ice cream at the age of 14, I really thought I came to heaven. So I started eating it around like at 10 o'clock in the morning, after lunch, after swim for a while, then after supper, and why not before I went to bed. And before I knew, Mr. Gala, who was our gardener, said to me, "Julie, you are turning into a Crisco can." You see, ladies and gentlemen, I was on a seafood diet. Whatever I saw, I wanted to eat because I didn't know whether I would have food for me tomorrow. It took a while to program my brain that there will be food for me tomorrow. You see, as I shared with you, my half-sister died at the age of 2 from malnutrition. My mom vowed that she wasn't going to lose another. I was in and out of many orphanages whenever my mom couldn't feed me. And she used to say, "Sunia, when you look at the moon, I will be looking at the same moon and thinking of you." I always believed that my mom would come for me. And would you believe, until coming to the Peresburg Opportunity Center, I didn't even own a toothbrush. So I used to clean my teeth with my second finger dabbed with salt, and I cleaned it this way. I never had cavities. But with all this ice cream, it has become history. That is, I'm sorry. And I so loved the times Mother Pearl and I, we would just enjoy lunch together, just 2 of us, and then play a game of chess or 2. She always had a way of making me feel that she had all the time for me. And she even passed down the joy of gardening. Would you believe she considered even weeding is a relaxing occupation? I am truly, truly grateful that Mother Pearl brought me to America, where I am not scorned for being of mixed race. But more than anything, she just loved me as I was. This is more than my history. This is his story. God had a plan and purpose for me when I did not know it. He allowed me to be born into a new misunderstood race. When many Amerasians were aborted, he protected me. Through many years of prejudice and ridicule, God gave me a loving mom who always wanted what was best for me. And when I was not able to afford to go to school, and when I was selling gum on the streets, shining shoes on the streets, and help my mom wash clothes by the creek to earn the money, it was then compassionate American donors and sponsors sent me to school. And when I became an orphan, Pearl Esbach raised me as her daughter. And when Mother Pearl died, a couple who weren't able to have a child of their own, and they always prayed and believed that someday God would send them a child, and they adopted me when I was 19 years old. Moreover, I am truly, truly blessed with my loving, selfless, caring husband, Doug, who is my rock. Would you please stand up? Please stand up. Don't shake your head. Thank you. And then God has also blessed us so much with our two wonderful, loving sons, Doug and Pete. Would you also stand up? And then our two lovely daughter-in-laws, Candace and Renee. And then our amazing, adorable grandchildren, all boys, Trey, Cole, Carter, Mason, and Kate, who are our fabulous five. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much for, it just means so much. And our grandsons, they work hard in school. They are good at sports. But most of all, they have a good and tender heart. And we are so very grateful. And then we are so blessed with our sisters, brothers, nieces, and nephews, and our dear friends. Some of them worked so hard for tonight so that we would have a very special evening, and I thank you all. And our amazing church family and our amazing PSBI family, thank you so very much. And as Jill was saying, I had many different opportunities to share in many different functions. But people used to say, Julie, you should write a book. Well, it took many, many years, and with much help from my husband, changing my Korean English to American English, but still keeping my voice, and also Pearl Esbach Writing Center Press from all those ladies helping, and we were able to accomplish writing this book. And it will be such an honor of my husband and I if each family unit will take one of the book as our gift. And would you believe this book is also being translated in South Korea into Korean language. And Mr. Timothy Kwan, I know you are listening. Thank you so very much. And you have been so graciously listening to my story. But I know that each and every one of you And all of us have a story to tell. We all go through difficulties and hard times. But I am very thankful God causes all things to work together for good. So as you read that book, I want you to reflect upon your life and let it bless your heart as well. And then, my girlfriend, Darla, by the way, wasn't the singing group amazing? How about we give them one more round of applause? They were just amazing. Well, some of you guys know Darla Moho. She used to say, Julie, your story has to be a book and a movie. Book and a movie. Doesn't that sound like a Darla, right? Well, anyway, recently, she's been so burdened. She's been so burdened that this story should become a motion picture. So she started writing to different people. And then there was a gentleman named by Scotty Curley, film producer, director, and an actor himself, was thinking about desiring to do a Korean project. And so when Darla wrote, he responded yes. And would you believe, he drove 6.5 hours today to be here. So Scotty, would you please stand up? And Darla, please stand up. How about we give them all a round of applause? Thank you very much. So, really appreciate that you took the time to be here. There is a thought that often goes through my mind, and it's this. What if the time when I was selling gum on the street and shining shoes on the street, what if there was no compassionate American donors and sponsors sending me to school? Where would my life be now? Ladies and gentlemen, you are doing the same tonight. I thank you so much for your support for Pearl SBUC International. You see, there are still many children growing up in discrimination, in poverty, and in shame. My prayer is the good work that Mother Pearl has begun will continue with some of our help, so the Pearl SBUC International can continue to provide equality in education, better nutrition, even minor health care. I am truly, truly thankful what Pearl SBUC International has done. And I know that we cannot help all children, but we can help some children. And the some children that we have helped, to that child, it will make all the difference. Who knows whether those ones that you have helped might be standing here someday, thanking you for the great difference you made in their lives. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and may God's blessing be upon you all. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.